Being real, Week 19 Summary. Why does life hurt? Yeah, had some really good discussion, actually, in a weird turn of events in what was expected to be one of the worst ones. And I mean worse, not in content being worse, but just having to share and go through some of the stuff and share some of our struggles. We ended up laughing more than anyone would have thought, and that's actually part of the tips or the things that we walked away with to help us through those struggles. Just kind of happened. So we'll get into what week 19 was about, but just wanted to mention that because I walked away. I figured I'd walk away with like a heavy heart and just you know a good kind of not hurt, but a good kind of solemnness, and really we laughed, and that was just unexpected. So I did want to start with that because I thought walking away from all the different things that we have, and I'll show you the different scriptures that we went through, and we'll go over a bunch of different things that we talked about, the why that life hurts. And this one's going to have a little bit more. I'm going to throw some lists up for you, because we discussed the why, all the different scenarios that make it painful, why it hurts, and the struggles. And then we went through and we did a separate list of what do we do about that. So going to put those up here, we did go through some scripture. Mainly we went through Job. There were some other ones, and we'll put those up here as well. But we kind of walked through the book of Job. And not from read this chapter, this chapter. What we did is we went through the headings, just to kind of recap what happened in Job. And there were, quite a few people that were very familiar with the book of Job. So we just basically looked at the chapter headings, scriptural headings, and kind of fast forwarded through Job to get a feel for it. And from there, we learned things like we had discussions, I should say. We had discussions about why that occurred. We talked about our frustration, frankly, with trying to understand why God just gave Job up like that. And, we know at the end of the story, and we know that a lot of that's based on, the ability for us to go look at it as an example. But man, that was, we were being real. This is why would this happen, and what? So the other things that we went through, we noticed how people interacted with Job and what their thoughts were, and how we shouldn't have those types of thoughts, or especially act upon them. At one point, scripturally, it talks about his three friends being very wise until they opened their mouths. Yeah. So we looked at it from that perspective as well. So we weren't just looking at the pain and suffering of Job, we were looking at it holistically. And then what happened as he went through it, we looked at how he reacted to it, which was kind of a comfort for us. I believe it was a comfort for us because, Job didn't like it. He asked God to, why am I here? Get rid of me. Why are you making me go through this? Why was I ever born? I'm paraphrasing, but he does say that, curses his birth and all this stuff. Yeah. And it's okay for us to do. What he didn't do was curse God or blame God for all of it. He wasn't happy with them. Nope. And by the way, if we use Job as a lesson, he just lays it out there, even with God. And it's okay for us to do that as well. So when you look back at why Job went through all this stuff, it's so we have that to look at. It's I don't want to say it's a formula, but it's something that we can read and learn from and understand how we're to be, how we're not to be, as far as being friends or trying to support somebody. And we talked about that, and a lot of people are, I'll pray for you, or they say different things, but they don't. Sometimes you just want people to listen. And it was interesting how we all had different struggles. And we didn't go into all of them, but we went in enough of the struggles and how our hearts reacted and whether we built walls or not. We talked about that kind of stuff. Um, but there were a lot of common denominators. Don't quote scripture to me. This is a group of Christians. Don't quote scripture to me. Don't tell me this is going to be okay or this is. Sometimes just be there. So as we were talking about our experiences there, and then going to scripture, scripture was saying the same kind of thing. And that's one of the cool things about how we're doing this. We have those discussions about real life stuff, and scripture lines up with some of the things we're saying. And we're usually going to scripture to make sense of some stuff. And a lot of times we've kind of already made sense of it, and scripture confirms it. And that's powerful. It's not a book of rules, and it's the real life stuff that we're pulling from it and looking at. So what I'm going to do is throw up we did Job and we went through a couple other scriptures. Going to throw those up right now. All right, so as you see the scriptures again, spent a lot of time in Job, but not reading every single thing, just rolling through the headings and recapping, and then looking more clearly at the different phases that Job went through, the anger he had, how his friends interacted, how they blamed it on something that Job might have done, and we also talked about just struggles just happen. Sometimes they're self-inflicted, and we had a lot of conversation about that where your struggles are self-inflicted, but we have to be very careful, just like Job's friends needed to be very careful and wise, and not assume that it's because of something he did. But we have that tendency to do that. So we have to be careful with that. And then, we talked about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I think that's right. I don't know. I couldn't remember there either. But the Daniel passage where when you're in the fire, someone else is with you. And that was kind of the correlation we made there and some other ones as well. But anyway, you'll see as you go through. I think if you haven't read Job, definitely read through Job. I think it's a misunderstood book sometimes because you can gather and glean a lot more than just somebody suffered. You can see how different people reacted, and that it was okay for Job to be mad at God and to feel like none of this was worth it, and to want to be gone because of the suffering that he went through. I mean, it was actually a book. And I said this there, it's more of a book of hope than people realize. It's people, you read it sometimes to commiserate, to be like, yeah, he's suffering like I'm suffering. And I know I've done it. But it's really a book more of hope and giving yourself a pass at times with, it's okay to have those frustrations just like he did. And Job went through this whole cycle and then was renewed and had more than he had ever hoped for prior to the suffering. So it's that book of hope, but also that it's okay as you're going through it to be miserable. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to do that. And if you have friends that are telling you all the things to quickly fix it, it's okay to be irritated with them. And if you're one of those friends that's trying to, which is human nature, just don't do it. Lots of stuff to be looked at, or lots of stuff to be learned from the book of Job that have nothing to do with the suffering itself and more how to handle it, good and bad. So recommend you check that out. And if you've read through Job before, just go through the headings and just kind of refresh yourself. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend reading Job from that perspective, looking for the different stories within the story or the different lessons within the scripture. All right, so we went through that. The next thing we did, we wanted to come up with a list of why life hurts. And I might have this a little out of order. This might have been the first thing we did, and then we went to Job. It's been a few days. Content doesn't change. It's the same. It's just, yeah. So we have a list of why life hurts. I'm going to go ahead and put, and it took us quite a bit. We're just looking, what are the struggles? Again, this is, so pain and suffering is, I started with asking people, hey, has anybody here suffered or anybody not suffered? No hands went up. It's common ground. We all go through it. And it's just, it exists. It exists because of the decisions that we make at times, and sometimes it just is. There are a lot of things that happen that aren't our choice. So we went through all the different hurts. List is going to be up here. I'm sure you can relate to some of those things, quite a few. I know for me, at different times that you go through, and some of it's caused by the people, some of it's caused by decisions that you make, your outlook. Sometimes it's discipline, sometimes it's long suffering, which is a gift. Hard to understand that at times, especially when you're going through it. Mostly when you're going through it. But that it's always for the betterment. So that was, those are some of the ones that we talked about. Again, I just want to put the list up there. You look through it. This is more of a common ground kind of thing. Just wanted you to see what we came up with. If you have more, great. Well, not great because it's suffering, but you get the point. This is our list. You have your own list. Great. So put down why life hurts. Now, don't stop there. What we did next, after we understood the why, and again, we talked about what hurts, and then we talked about why life hurts. So sometimes we had examples of what causes pain, what other people do, and then it was, well, why is that? It's for growth, and that's the shortest version of it. It's for your growth. It's also a litmus test. This kind of shows you where you're at as a Christian with how you react to that and where you go, and do you doubt, and so there are those reasons as well for why it hurts. Okay, sorry. So what do we do about it? What can we do as we're going through it? And we had a list of those as well. And I'm going to go ahead and put them up here. And you'll see from this list, I mean, it's a pretty comprehensive list of things. It took us some time. I mean, we were, I think we went 30 or 40 minutes over, and we went through the Job and some scripture, but that was maybe, a 15-minute conversation, kind of summarizing that. The rest of it is making these lists and kind of talking through stuff, and shared, different people shared some things. But this list is, pretty good list of things. Hopefully something helps you as you look through this list, and it helps you when you're going through it. It also helps you help others, because that's another thing on the lists. One of the lists are both, you'll see. But we suffered so that we could help others through suffering. God doesn't waste the hurt. And we talked about that. So hopefully these lists give you some ideas. You can relate to the list of the why, the what, and the why. And then you can also take it to what do you do about it? Now do what? How do we apply those things? to help us and to help others through these times. And none of them said quote scripture or just say you're praying. Not that prayer is not important. Don't misunderstand. It's how you portray it. And we talked about that. And someone shared how that just ticks them off when somebody says that, because they're not taking the time to listen, to understand what to pray about, and then pray. They're just saying something because they're saying it. And you don't know somebody else's heart, but that's how they take it. That's how this person was shared that took it. So even things that we think are very important and very Christian-like, sometimes we do that because it's easier, or it's more comfortable, or something that we've learned. So in kind of breaking that mold. We didn't get to faith and action items per se, but really the faith and action item is to apply some of these, what to do about it. That list, apply a couple of them, because everybody suffers. So everybody goes through struggles, everybody suffers. If you have somebody else that that is suffering, try to apply some of these for them. Mainly listen. Shut up and listen. I'm saying that to myself because I'm not the best at that at times. Talking from a camera doesn't help the listening part because I can't listen to somebody on the other end. But still, yeah, I'm on it. So we need to do that and just be there. So let's just go with that for the faith and action item this week. Be there for someone else that's in pain. And if you don't know someone else that's in pain or struggling, look at some of the stuff for yourself. It's a very important piece. And if you're really hurting, the other thing, maybe reach out and get some help. And lots of ways to do that. We recommend like Christian counselors because the Christian aspect of it, and that came up too, the Christian aspect of counseling is very important. A lot of people will just go to counselors, but that Christian side of it, the biblically based side of it, the understanding that, this world, it's not about making yourself happy, which some, maybe some non-Christian counselors focus more on that. So that's a very important thing. If that's important to you, you can find some. And confide in somebody. So let's just do this for the faith and action items. Let's listen to someone, be there for someone that's in pain. Or if you're the one in pain, if you're the one suffering, confide in someone else. Be a pretty good faith and action. Hopefully something here helps. This group, we meet every week to talk about these things, and a lot of stuff's come from it. There'll be more content based on what we talk about, but really the focus right now is just doing this group and getting people talking, and hopefully talking with others. Hopefully this gets some discussion going with people around you. If you were in the group with us, this is a review for you, and just a way to, if you missed, you can catch up. But also for anybody else watching this, hopefully something rings a bell here and it connects with you. And if it does, just connect with others on it and point them to it if it helps. If it helps you, maybe it'll help them. And thanks for watching. Be real.